Hello, hi there. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on wherever you are watching this video from. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is 𝗓𝗡𝗧𝗥𝗢𝗗𝗨𝗖𝗧𝗜. I'm a software engineer, I'm a UI and UX designer, I'm a tech educator, and specifically in this video, we'll be developing, or rather we'll be doing an introduction to React Native with Expo, right? So this is my channel where I share everything related to web development and mobile applications. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do subscribe so that you're able to just see my latest videos and everything that I'll be posting. If you're interested in learning about web and mobile app development, do share this video to someone who might be interested in starting their journey into mobile development. And as well as like the video, you can also follow my page on Facebook. That's Mufasa the King, right? So we'll dive into it. Okay, so today we are looking at an introduction to React Native with Expo. So that's mobile app development, right? So this was supposed to be a live stream. Some time back I did a live stream, I think that was last week, but we had some technical issues, so the live stream wasn't perfect, it wasn't that good because there wasn't sound at some points. So I decided to just shoot the video, record the session so that you follow properly and you get the understanding of the topic, right? So let's dive into it. Alright, like I mentioned, my name is 𝗓𝗡𝗧𝗥𝗢𝗗𝗨𝗖𝗧𝗜. I'm a software developer or engineer and tech educator. I'm very passionate about empowering individuals with practical, life-changing skills, especially tech skills, right? So in this lesson, like I mentioned, building real mobile apps. Okay? So it will be a series of different lessons based on the development of mobile applications using React Native app. These sessions will be learning live every Monday at 8 hours, right? So these sessions will be learning both here on my YouTube channel as well as on my Facebook page every Monday, 8 hours, right? Okay, so now the question is, what is mobile app development? All right, so when it comes to mobile app development, this is basically the process of designing or developing mobile applications, right? So then the question then comes in to say, what is a mobile application? What is a mobile application? All right, so a mobile application is basically a software application that is designed to run on smartphones or tablets. Okay, so this is just like any other software that runs on these different platforms. It's just a software that runs on smartphones or tablets. Okay, so now this can be built for Android, iOS, or both simultaneously, right? Which is what we call cross-platform, right? Things that run both on Android and iOS. Okay, now a software that runs on a PC, okay, or a laptop is a desktop application. Okay, it's a desktop application, right? So it's a desktop application. It's not a mobile device, software rather. Okay, so a software application that is designed to run on smartphones and tablets is called a mobile app, right? So the process of then developing these softwares is what we call mobile app development. Okay? Now, there are what we call native apps. These are designed specifically for a single platform. Okay, so now these native apps, for example, you have an application that only runs on Android. That's a native application for Android. And if you want to develop a mobile application that runs on Android, you use programming languages like Java or Kotlin, right? Which target these single platforms. Then if you want for iOS, you use Swift, right? That's the programming language used to build applications only for iOS platforms. Okay, now when it comes to cross-platform applications, these are built to run on both Android and iOS, right? But then you use one single base. Okay, so you don't need to use two different languages. You can use one language and build for both iOS and Android. One good example of a language that we use to build cross-platform apps is React Native, which is what we'll be learning in this lesson. Okay, so React Native is a framework that allows us to build mobile application using a single base, and the application is able to run on both iOS and Android. All right. Okay, so why are we using React Native and Expo? I think we've already touched on one advantage of React Native, which is that it's cross-platform, right? It's cross-platform, so we don't need to write different code bases for us to build two different applications or the same application that runs on both iOS and Android, right? But then with React Native, we are able to write one code base and build applications that run on both iOS and Android, right? And when you are using React Native and Expo together, there is fast setup. We don't need to install Android Studio. Android Studio is a software that you have to install on your machine for you to start developing. It's a huge software, and it takes up your space, even just the processing power of your machine. Okay, so there's a bit of configuration that you need to set up for you to start using it, right? But then when you're using React Native and Expo, all you need is to just download Node. Okay, I'm sure we'll get to that. You just need Node and you'll be good to go. Okay, so you just need Node and you'll be good to go, right? Then it's also real-time testing, right? You'll be able to see that. So on the fly, as you are typing, as you are making the changes, you'll be able to see the changes instant. And it has got a rich ecosystem. There's a huge access to a large library of packages that you can use when you're developing your different applications using React Native and Expo. Okay, and one of the things about React Native is that it's being used by huge companies. Huge brands are using React Native to develop their applications. Companies like Uber, Instagram, Walmart, Coinbase, and Tesla, they are using React Native to build mobile applications, real mobile applications. Okay? All right, so one of the things we need to do is we need to set up our environment. Okay, now when we say environment, what we basically mean is setting up our machine. So our environment is our computer, our machine, the tools that we are using, right? The platform that we are using to develop these applications, right? So for instance, I'm using a Windows PC, right? I'm using a Windows PC on operating system Windows 11. Okay, so for me to get started, I need a few things set up. One of the things I need, the major thing, is node.js, right? So we need node.js. Why do we not need this? It's because it helps us run JavaScript on our machine outside the browser. Okay, it helps us run JavaScript outside the browser. Okay, now JavaScript as we know it was built for the web, right? But because of the development of Node.js, we are now able to run JavaScript outside the web and on our machine. Okay, so you need that because when building React Native, the language or the programming language that we use is JavaScript. So we need Node.js, right? Then the next thing that we need is a code editor. Okay, so for us to write our code, to see the code for React Native and make changes to it, we need a code editor, right? We need a code editor. So the recommended code editor that we'll be using here is VS Code, right? Visual Studio Code. Then the second thing that you need is now the COI for Expo, right? So you just need to install the Expo COI. Now the way you do that is you use the package manager for JavaScript, right? For Node. So npm is a package manager that we'll be using, and you use this to install Expo COI. So npm basically means Node Package Manager, right? So it's a package manager for Node. Okay, so you say npm install, then that's globally you install Expo COI. So when you install it globally, it means that in any folder of your choice on your machine, you are able to just now build your React Native Expo application, right? By running a command which you'll be able to see later on. Okay. Now, after you install Node and you have your code editor in place and you are ready to build your application, what you need now is a device where you'll be able to see the live changes to the application that you are developing, right? Now, there are two ways of doing that. One is having an Expo app installed on your device. That's your mobile phone, okay? Your mobile phone. Then the other one is an emulator, right? So with an emulator, that's now where you get to install, for example, Android Studio, right? You can install Android Studio. So once you install Android Studio, you're able to configure your emulator on Android Studio, and you're able to run your app on any emulator that comes with Android Studio. Okay, but with Expo Go application, you just install it from either a Google Play Store or Apple Store, right? So both platforms have got Expo Go app. So if you're developing for Android, if you're testing for Android, you can download it on your Android device on Google Play Store. If you are testing for iOS, you can download the application on Apple Store and be able to just work on your application. So I will be able to demonstrate all that, and we'll be able to see how we can get that done. Okay. All right. Okay. So now we come to the point where we now need to build our own application, right? So the first step is you open a terminal. Okay. So the terminal helps us to be able to install or download rather the necessary files that are needed for us to build our application. So the command that you run the command npx create expo app, then you give it the name, right? So where there is my first app, you will now type the name of the app that you want. So you can give it any name that you want, then you change the directory, right? CD, right? Kind directory, right? Change of directory. So you go to your application. Then now when you're inside the folder, right? When you're inside your application, right? You now run this, okay? For you to start the development server. Okay, so for you to run the Expo development server, you run this command npx expo start. Okay, so when you run this and the server is running, okay, you're now able to scan the code, the barcode. Also, there'll be a barcode that you'll be able to scan with your device using the Expo Go application that you would have downloaded either from Apple Store or Google Play Store, right? So once you scan it, the application will then now open on top of Google Expo application, right? So when we do that, now we'll be able to make the changes that we need. Okay, so that's what we'll do. For now, let's continue to the next slide. All right, so with the next slide, that's where we now dive into looking at just the different concepts that are there in React Native. Okay. So before we dive into this, I think we can now install our application, walk through the necessary steps that are needed for us to get set up. Okay. So go back, right? Go back, step back. So the first thing that we need to do is what? Open our terminal. Okay. We need to open our terminal. So I already ran the command npx create expo application. Then the name I gave it was test app, right? It takes a bit of time for the first time when you are trying to download this application, depending again on the speed of the internet. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll open this folder. Okay, so I'm inside the project itself, right? So the name of the project is test app, right? So I'm inside and I'll open a terminal. So what you can do if you're running on or you are working on a Windows computer, what you can do is you can come here, right, where there is the path for the right, this path, right, for your project, and you can just type cmd, right, and you press enter. Once you press enter, it will then open up, okay, it will then open up this, okay, it will then open up this, right, it opens the current directory for your project, right? So you can do that. Okay, so you just come here, you type cmd, and it will open up this, right? Yeah. So once this is open, okay, so let me minimize it like that so that you're able to see. Once this is open, what you do is you type now the command, right? Remember the command, okay? Remember the command npx. So already, right now, I'm assuming you've already run this command and you've created a folder like this, okay? So after you create a folder like this folder is now created, you will now run this command, okay? npx expo start, right? So let's do that. Okay, so we say npx expo start, right? So once you run that, this is now starting the saver, okay? We are now starting the saver. So the first thing we should see is a barcode, right, that we are supposed to scan. Right, so we give it a second. So it's starting the Metro bundle. Okay, right. So this is the code that we need, the QR code rather, right, that we need to scan. So this is the QR code that we needed, right? Okay, so it's there, it's running. Okay, now, like I mentioned, you need to use your actual device, right, for you to scan this. You need to use your Android device or your iPhone, right, that has got Expo Go app installed, right? So now then, because I'm using my computer and I don't have Android Studio installed, what I'm going to do, I connected my phone, okay? Let me connect again. Let me just try to connect my device, okay? Let me try to connect my device. Right, so I've connected my device. This is my device, okay? So this is my device there, right? Now what I'll do is I'll now click where it says scan QR code, right? So I just click there, right? You've seen. So now I'm scanning, right? This is my device. So as you can see, this is my PC there, right? This is my PC, okay? So I'm scanning, I'm using my actual device, right? I'm using my actual device. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll remove this, okay, and then I'll scan this, right? The moment I scan, it's opening the application like that. Okay, so you give it a second, the application is building. Okay, all right, there we go, right? Now we have our first mobile application running on our device, right? So this is the application itself. You can play around with it, right? So now what we're going to do is open the application in VS Code, right? So I'm going to minimize this, okay, and let me just open another terminal, right, so that I can just type code then dot so that I open it in VS Code. Okay, so when it opens in VS Code, okay, just opening it, and this is what we get. Okay, this is what we get. Right, this is what we get. So these are the current files that we have, right? Let me zoom in a bit. Okay, so these are the current files that we have, right? So we have folders and we have files which are here, right? Now our main application is in here. It's called app. Okay, it's called app. So these are the files and folders that are running on our current application, which is this one. Okay, excuse. Okay, so what we're going to do to start from scratch, we're going to see first what's in here, right? So these are layout files. Okay, these are just layout files for application. Then when you go in the tab, these are now the two tabs that are running. So we have the home tab, which is called the index. This is the root file for application. Okay, so this is the one we're calling home. So you'll be able to see welcome in the code. If you just go on top here, okay, let me see, where is that? Here, right? So this is welcome. Then you have this hello wave, right? So you have this hello wave here that we're importing. Okay, so we have that. Okay, welcome. Then you have the Expo, right? This is the folder for Explore, right? Explore here. So that's the second tab here. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to delete this whole folder so that we start from scratch, right? So what we're going to do is I'll delete that folder. We no longer have it here, right? We no longer have the folder there. Okay, we no longer have it. So if I refresh, we'll be able to see that. Let's just go here. Okay, we'll be able to see that it's now telling us to say what? Route is extraneous, right? So the route is no longer there. So let me just refresh. Okay, when I refresh, you'll be able to see that it's running like that. Okay, so with this one, sometimes it persists like this. I'll need to like close the terminal and refresh it a bit, okay, or clear the cache. Right, so what we're going to do to just make sure that it's running properly, we're going to create a file, right? We're going to create a folder rather, called application, right? So inside this folder, we are going to create our entry, right? Which is index.js, okay? That's our entry file. Then in here, we're going to just run, okay? So this is a shortcut that we do to just generate the Boiler code, right? For React Native, okay? Let me give it some time. I think it's still loading or something. Okay, I think it was loading. Yeah, I think we have it there. Okay, so this is our application. So we can give it a name if we want. We can call it home. Then here we can just say hello, right? Then we save our work. So this is our initial file now, right? Then here we can now put our home like that. Okay, like that. All right. I think we can also remove the components. We can delete these constants. We can remove these as well. The hooks, we can remove these as well. Okay, right. So now we have our clean structure. We have our clean code there like that. Okay, right. Let's now try to close this. Okay, and run it again. So we just give it a second. Okay, there it is, right? Then, so our application, remember it's still here, right? And it gave us this error, right? Because of the files we deleted. So what we need to do is now refresh. So let me minimize so that you see what I mean, right? Okay, let's do that. So once I press, for me to refresh, I just need to press R, right? Once I press R, it reloads the application, right? So it's now building. Okay, it's building the app. Once it finishes building, okay, so it's giving us an error. Let's see what the error is. Okay, I think this is something we can avoid. So already it's running the application. You can even see there called hello. Okay, so hello is this text here, right? If you want, you can style it. Okay, let me style it like that, just so in React Native, for you to style, we have got this class that we're exporting called style sheet, right? Unlike in HTML and CSS, where you can create an external file for CSS and you just straight ahead type your styles, but in here we have to import this style sheet. Then you say create, then in here that's why we write our styles, right? So we need to get this variable called styles inside here, right? Then you say dot, then you give it a class name, right? So this is the name that we'll be using inside here, right? So here we can call it container, right? The first one. So we use the same name, call it here as container, then like that. Okay, so here, for example, you can say flex1. So these we're just applying the style so that we center the text, right? We want to center the text. Then flex1 will make sure that this container is occupying the whole screen. Okay, right. And we have align items, which is center as well. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, so now when you check in the application, you see now it's at the center, right? We need to increase the font size, right, so that you're able to see that. Okay, now before I go to the font size, I think we can get back to the presentation so that I'm able to just explain some few tags that we use in VS Code, because rather in React Native, because here you'll be able to see that there are some tags which are different from the ones that we usually use when we are developing web applications, right? For example, you have text here and you have view. These are different tags, right, that we don't use when developing web applications. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. Okay. Right, so our second step is we're just looking at some of these elements. Okay, so in most cases you find that we have an app.js file, which is the entry point of the React Native application, right? But in our case, we have the app folder, right? Our app folder is our entry point. Okay, but you can always change whichever entry point you want. But in our case, we have the app folder because we are using what we call Expo router. Okay, Expo router, which is the latest version when you install React Native using the Expo CLI, right? All right, so the first thing that we're going to look at is view, right? So view, okay, is acting as a container similar to what? A div in what? In web development. So with web development, we usually use div as a form of container, right? So inside the div, that's where you can put like your images, your paragraphs, your inputs and things like that. Whenever you want to group, maybe, you know, either it be a section or some elements. Okay, then we have text. Okay, so with React Native you don't have elements like paragraph tag or h1, h2, h3 and all those things, right? So if you are dealing with text, anywhere where you're dealing with text should always go inside the txt, which is the text element. Okay, so this is the component that helps us render text in our applications. Okay, if you write text inside the view, it will give us an error. Okay, so text should always go inside the text, right? Then you have another element, a common element that we usually use whenever you are creating a button, right? But there are other ones that are placeable buttons, right? So here it's saying a standard component providing a placeable element for user interaction, triggering actions on tap, right? So these ones, they come with an attribute which is called onPlace, right? So you can use these buttons whenever you want to place the button so that you can trigger a function or something like that. Okay, I'm sure I'll show you guys an example. Then we have the style sheet, right, which is the API that provides an abstraction similar to CSS style sheets, right, used to define and manage your app's styles, like we did with the way we centered the text, right? So you need this style sheet API. So we import it, then we use it, okay, to style our application. All right. Okay, so let's now try it, right? Let's try it in our application. Let's try those examples that we've talked about, right? So we've understood we have a view there and we have text, right? So these, okay, again, unlike in web development, in web you just maybe introduce a paragraph like this. You don't need to import the paragraph, right? But then in React Native you do need import them for you to use them. Okay, so here we needed them. Okay, so start with this one. So remember, when styling all these, you need to first say style equal to, so you have the attribute there of style. Then in here you are targeting this, right? Because you're trying to style. Remember, we need to use this API, right, for styling. Okay, so you get there, the variable for that, put it in here, then you give it a name, right? So for example, here I can just give it a name of text. So this name text is the one that we'll be using here. Now in here you need to separate these names by a comma, right? So we go down there, then we say text for colon, then you open your brackets, right? Now in CSS, in normal CSS, what we do is we don't put this full colon, but in React Native you need to add this full colon. So you say text, okay, because what you're adding in here is an object. Okay, so these styles, you look at them as objects. Okay, these are objects. This is an object that we are passing to this guy, okay, to this create function, okay, from this API, so that we are able to now use these. Okay, we are able to use these and pass them to what? To our elements for us to style them. Okay, right. So if you wanted, again, what you would do is you can actually get this whole element, right? Because what we are doing is we are using the dot notation to tap into this. Okay, so if you wanted, you could get this. Okay, let me just cut it from here, and you would paste it in here, and it would be the same thing. Okay, it would be the same thing. Let me remove it from there. Okay, let me remove this for now, right? And if I save, it will be the same thing. Okay, if we check in our application, find that nothing has really changed, right? It's still at the center. It's the same thing. Okay, so let me take it back, right? Then there, for the text, what we're going to do is we're going to increase the text font size, rather, right? Font size like that. Okay, so the font size here, let's put 40, right? So that it's big and we're able to see. Now in here, because we are looking at these as objects, right? This is key value pairs, right? We are looking at, this is a key and this is a value object, right? So you don't put pixels here the way we do it in web. So you just put units like this, 40. Okay, so down here you can also say font weight, right? Font weight, then you say maybe bold, like that. Okay, okay. If we go to our application, we'll be able to see hello down there like that. See? All right, let's try adding a button, right? Let's add a button inside our container there, right? Let's say button. Okay, when you type button, you are able to see even where you are bringing the button from, right? So we are exporting from React Native there, right? This is our button. Okay, then we do that. I'm sure we need a title for the button. I think so. We do need a title for the button, so we just say open alert, right? Just say open alert. I think I do need to put the name in there, right? Let me try that. Okay, so I'll save. Okay, after saving there, we can now check it. Okay, and we have a button there, right? You've seen we have a button there. Okay, we have a button there. Okay, now because we have a button here, remember what I mentioned, right? This is a placeable button. So what it means is that it comes with an attribute called onPlace. Okay, so onPlace, the good part about this button is the onPlace, you can now put a function in there that performs something, that does something, right? So like a good example, for example, here when you come inside here, right, we are returning this. So this is basically an arrow function, right? So we are returning this inside the arrow function. Now, before we return anything, for example, we can add other functions in here. So for example, I can add another function and we call it maybe open let, right? I'll call it open alert. That's when I say like that, right? Okay. When we say open alert, okay, I can even bring up the alert like that. When I just say hello button has been placed, right? Like that. Okay. Now I've created this this object here, so I'll copy it and pass it here, right? This is the function, right? So what this means now is if I place this button here, it will trigger this function and run whatever line of code is there, right? And in our case, we have an alert. So once I press this button, I'm supposed to see an alert. Okay. So let's do that. So we have this button. When I press it like that, you've seen we have this alert now that says hello button has been placed. Then you just say that, okay, right? So that was just a quick introduction to React Native Expo. I'm sure later on we'll be able to touch more on other features. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining this session. Right. So like I mentioned, this was supposed to be a live session, but we never had a proper one due to some technical issues that we had. If you need access to the code that we are from using, do reach out. Let me know in the comment section. And for the other content that you might want to access, I'm always putting up content on my Facebook account. Just go on Facebook and search for Mufasa the King, and you'll be able to access some of my content. I've got other YouTube videos right here that can help you get started in web development. You'll find that here in the playlist as well. Okay, so for other videos, they'll be coming up soon on mobile app development, specifically dealing with React Native Expo. All right, thank you for joining me. Thank you for opening this video. Don't forget to smash that subscription button. Do subscribe to this channel so that you're able to see more videos like this. All right, it's goodbye for now. Thank you. Signing out. Mufasa.